Millionaire kicked his pregnant wife out shocked when she returns as a federal judge. Welcome to a gripping tale of betrayal, resilience, and stunning karma. In this story, a wealthy husband callously expels his pregnant wife from their lavish home, unaware that the seeds of his downfall are being sown in that very moment. As life's twists and turns guide her through moments of desperation to unexpected opportunities, she returns years later in a new role, one powerful enough to shatter the fortress he's carefully built. Prepare for unpredictable revelations, surprising alliances, and layers of subterfuge that will keep you perched at the edge of your seat. Join us as we unravel a saga where justice truly comes full circle. Before we dive in, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. If you're excited about this story, let us know. If you enjoyed the video, press 1. If not, press O. Your feedback really inspires me to gather more uplifting and meaningful stories. Vanessa Carter's cheeks were wet with tears as she stood on the sweeping porch of an opulent estate, her designer suitcase at her side. Moments earlier, her husband, Leonard Carter, a self-made millionaire celebrated for his ruthless business strategies, had cruelly demanded she leave. Vanessa had never expected this degree of heartlessness from the man she once adored. The grounds of their luxurious mansion still glistened in the early morning sun, but the brilliant facade could not mask the chill in Leonard's final words. Vanessa was 3 months pregnant. All the fancy trappings of their life, expensive cars, extravagant galas, high-end vacations meant nothing now that she'd been unceremoniously tossed out. Her body trembled in disbelief, recalling Leonard's twisted tirade, the brutal way he'd accused her of distracting him from his ambitious corporate takeover. The very moment she pleaded for empathy, he snapped, "You and that child are liabilities I can't afford." He'd thrown her phone to the floor and cut off her credit cards earlier that morning, humiliating her before the household staff. But the biggest wound was that he showed no remorse, pacing up and down the marble hallways with the swagger of a man convinced his fortune placed him above consequences. As the front door slammed behind her, Vanessa sank to her knees, uncertain if she could summon the strength to protect herself, let alone a child. She could not know that her darkest hour was the first step in a redemptive journey so profound that it would one day eclipse her husband's might and arrogance. Fearing Leonard's volatile temper, Vanessa wasted no time fleeing the estate. By sheer luck, she found a forgotten bus pass tucked inside an old wallet at the bottom of her suitcase. Desperate, she used it to travel into the city, head pounding with questions. Where will I sleep tonight? How will I feed myself tomorrow? Why did he turn so cold? The city streets had once seemed romantic, lined with cafes, boutiques, and endless possibilities. Now they appeared foreboding, each shadow carrying the weight of her uncertainty. With no home, no plan, and few belongings, Vanessa wandered until she reached a modest diner. Its neon sign flickered as though on the verge of burnout, an apt symbol of how she felt. Slipping inside, she hunched over a coffee cup, tears silently streaming down her cheeks. She had no clue that a stroke of fate was about to alter her life. A passing waitress, an older woman named Dolores, noticed Vanessa's pale complexion and asked if she needed help. Hearing Vanessa's story triggered Dolores's protective instincts. Dolores quietly offered a small spare room in her cramped apartment above the diner. In an astonishing leap of faith, Vanessa accepted. That night, as she attempted to rest on a lumpy sofa bed, she stared at the water-stained ceiling and stroked her growing belly, vowing that no matter the depths of her despair, she would not allow Leonard's cold dismissal to define her child's future. She didn't yet realize how her vow would be tested and how it would eventually lead her to a position of power beyond her wildest dreams. Over the following weeks, Vanessa tried to reconcile her new life with the whirlwind she'd left behind. Gone were the designer dresses and high society events. She now woke before dawn to help Dolores serve breakfast, wiping down tables and greeting early morning customers. It was honest work, but the constant ache in her abdomen reminded her that she was no longer alone. Each night, her mind churned with anxieties about what the future would hold for both her and her unborn child. Leonard, meanwhile, wasted no time rewriting the public narrative. In tabloids and press releases, he presented himself as a misunderstood philanthropist who had graciously parted ways with a wife unwilling to support his vision. He made sure to blacklist Vanessa from the social circles she once frequented, paying off acquaintances to sever ties with her. The betrayal was profound. Former friends, afraid of angering a powerful man, vanished as if Vanessa no longer existed. Even acquaintances she had once considered close wouldn't return her calls. It felt as if an entire world had conspired to turn its back on her. At the diner, Dolores became her sole confidant. Late one evening, after Dolores locked up, they sat in a booth, sipping tea and hashing over old secrets. Dolores revealed that her niece had left an abusive spouse and found salvation in legal aid organizations. That conversation sparked a flicker of hope in Vanessa. Perhaps, she thought, there was a route to justice, a way to reclaim her dignity. As she gazed into her tea, picturing the face of the man who had abandoned her in her most vulnerable state, a simmering resolve took shape. She had no idea that this small spark would, in time, blaze into a pursuit that would transform her life and bring her face to face with Leonard. Once more, under circumstances he could never predict. 3 months later, in the glow of the diner's fluorescent lights, Vanessa felt sharp pains tearing through her abdomen. Panic flooded her senses. She was only in her second trimester, and any complication could be devastating. Dolores rushed her to Brigham and Women's Hospital, a well-known medical center in Boston, though it meant an hour-long drive from their suburban diner. Within the sterile corridors of that prestigious hospital, Vanessa clutched Dolores's hand, overwhelmed by the whir of machines and the urgency in the doctors' voices. Despite the terror of potential complications, the hospital staff were kind, skilled, and swift to help. Vanessa was placed on bed rest to stabilize her pregnancy. A soft-spoken young doctor, Dr. Hayes, monitored her vitals, reassuring her that the baby was safe, but that her body was under enormous stress. It was clear she could no longer manage the physicality of her diner job. She needed a less strenuous life if she was to carry her child to term. The reality slapped her in the face. With no income, no safety net, and mounting medical bills, how could she ensure her baby's well-being? Dolores's kindness was already stretched to its limit. The older woman was supporting a whole household with meager diner profits. Trapped in a swirl of financial vulnerability, Vanessa resolved to reach out to the one avenue she had avoided, an attorney specializing in family law. With the hospital's guidance, she booked an appointment for a free consultation, her heart pounding with a confusing cocktail of fear and anticipation. She had sworn never to beg Leonard for anything again, but her child's health mattered more than her pride, and she would do whatever it took to protect her unborn son or daughter. Vanessa's first meeting with an attorney, Joshua Ming, felt surreal. Dressed in a slightly rumpled suit, he radiated a calm intensity that put Vanessa at ease. Listening attentively to her story, Joshua's expression hardened with each detail she recounted Leonard's cruelty, her expulsion from their home, and her desperate situation. He explained that, by law, Leonard owed her spousal support and was obligated to cover medical expenses, especially with a child on the way. Yet taking on Leonard meant challenging a man whose wealth allowed him to manipulate legal boundaries with alarming ease. Joshua warned Vanessa that Leonard's team of high-powered corporate lawyers would mount a vicious defense. They might even try to paint her as an unfit mother or a gold digger. Dread coiled in Vanessa's stomach. She could almost hear Leonard's sneering laughter at the thought of taking him to court. But there was something about the way Joshua spoke, an unshakable commitment to uncovering the truth and protecting the vulnerable. He offered to file an emergency petition requiring Leonard to provide temporary financial assistance, ensuring Vanessa's medical care and a safer living arrangement. When Vanessa hesitated, Joshua declared, "If we don't do this, he'll believe he can trample you forever. You must fight for yourself and for your child." The quiet conviction in his voice strengthened Vanessa's resolve. No matter how intimidating Leonard's attorneys would be, she had no choice but to stand up for her family's future. Little did she know that legal action was only the prelude to a chain reaction that would lead her down a path more extraordinary than she could have ever envisioned. When Leonard received notice of the emergency petition, he erupted with fury. His corporate attorneys responded by filing a salvo of counter-motions, labeling Vanessa a liar and insinuating that the child might not be his. They even hired a private investigator to dig up any speck of dirt on Vanessa's life since she left him. The entire ordeal became an all-out war, waged not just in court filings, but also in the court of public opinion. Rumors about Vanessa's alleged infidelities and questionable activities appeared in scandal-driven tabloids, though they never provided any verifiable source. Vanessa felt the sting of humiliation each time she glimpsed her name twisted in sensational headlines. Yet, an unexpected wave of solidarity surfaced among those in her new neighborhood. Regular customers at the diner rallied behind her, outraged by Leonard's callous tactics. Dolores's unwavering support and Joshua's legal prowess began to form a shield around Vanessa, though she was still uncertain if this shield could withstand Leonard's relentless attacks. As the legal deadlines approached, the tension escalated. Court dates loomed, depositions were scheduled, and invasive questions about Vanessa's personal life were raised. Still, through it all, she clung to her unborn child's future as her reason to keep going. An unexplainable shift was happening deep within her soul, a sense of moral conviction pushing back against the fear. Yet she wondered if all her efforts would truly matter when pitted against Leonard's wealth. Unbeknownst to her, fate was leading her toward a life-altering turn that would make her not just a participant in the legal system, but a guiding force within it. After a grueling 5 months of legal skirmishes, Vanessa's pregnancy neared full term. Joshua successfully secured court-mandated support from Leonard, ensuring she could move into a safer apartment and continue her medical treatments. Although the legal victory felt momentous, Leonard's minions still hounded her, combing through every aspect of her life in search of a reason to terminate support. Amid this turmoil, Vanessa delivered a healthy baby girl named Lillian, her greatest source of joy. One particularly stormy night, while rocking Lillian to sleep in their modest nursery, Vanessa's phone buzzed with an unexpected call. A representative from a non-profit women's advocacy group reached out, explaining they'd heard about her courtroom experiences. Impressed by Vanessa's fortitude, they invited her to speak at a local conference on women's rights and legal empowerment. Vanessa was hesitant. She wasn't a lawyer herself, and the idea of giving a speech in front of an audience made her stomach churn. Despite her reservations, something about the invitation resonated. She had confronted the twisted power imbalance in her marriage and emerged, if not entirely victorious, at least standing. Perhaps she did have something worth sharing. Ultimately, she accepted. That decision proved to be more than a public speaking engagement. It would become an awakening of sorts, igniting a flicker of ambition she had never felt before. As the date of the conference approached, Vanessa sensed she was stepping onto a bridge that could lead her away from the pain of her past and toward a calling she never anticipated. Vanessa's speech at the Women's Advocacy Conference was unpolished, emotional, and profoundly authentic. She described her journey, a loving marriage that turned hostile, the fear and shame of abandonment, and her complicated legal battle for dignity. When she finished, the crowd stood to applaud, many moved to tears by her story. Among them was a retired judge named Angela Porter, a well-known figure who had served decades in the Massachusetts judicial system. Struck by Vanessa's sincerity and resilience, Judge Porter approached her afterward. In a quiet hallway, Judge Porter asked pointed questions about Vanessa's experiences and her future aspirations. She commended Vanessa for her courage and suggested she consider a career in law. At first, Vanessa laughed in disbelief. She was a single mother, working countless hours at the diner just to pay rent. How could she possibly go to law school? Judge Porter, however, was unfazed. She offered to mentor Vanessa, explaining there were scholarships and programs aimed at supporting women who had faced adversity. That night, the idea of law school was all Vanessa could think about. What began as a faint notion gradually solidified into a plan. With Joshua's encouragement and Judge Porter's network of connections, Vanessa prepared for the LSAT while balancing motherhood and part-time work. The challenges were immense sleep deprivation, sporadic finances, and the constant gnaw of self-doubt, but the vision of creating a life where she and Lillian could thrive overshadowed every hurdle. And so, with Judge Porter's mentorship and her own unwavering determination, Vanessa embarked on a path that would eventually place her at the highest echelons of judicial power, setting the stage for a confrontation with her past beyond anything she could imagine. Vanessa's acceptance into Harvard Law School was the culmination of countless study sessions, tearful nights, and unwavering optimism that her life could improve. Juggling the intense demands of law school with single motherhood was a feat that often left her on the brink of exhaustion. But thanks to scholarships, a small circle of supportive classmates, and Judge Porter's guidance, Vanessa pushed forward. She discovered a talent for dissecting complex legal concepts and constructing persuasive arguments. Her faculty advisors were especially impressed by her passion for family law, a field she had once approached out of necessity, but now embraced as a means to advocate for the voiceless. At times, the financial strain threatened to overshadow her progress, but she managed to secure a position on the Harvard Law Review. That prestigious achievement opened doors to summer internships at top-tier law firms and offered stipends that helped sustain her and Lillian. Despite her newly flourishing academic life, haunting memories of Leonard remained. She avoided tabloids and gossip columns, refusing to let his name or his potential successes distract her from her goals. Occasionally, Leonard would attempt to contact her regarding Lillian, usually through intermediaries, though it was never about love or genuine interest in his daughter. He simply wanted to ensure his public image remained untarnished. Each time she rebuffed him, her resolve strengthened. The more she succeeded on her own, the more confident she became that she could one day exact real change for others in similarly dire situations. Her dream of becoming not just a lawyer, but a force in the judicial system turned from a distant fantasy into a steadily approaching reality. Upon graduating near the top of her class, Vanessa accepted a prestigious clerkship at the USC Court of Appeals. Judge Porter continued to serve as her beacon, providing advice and networking connections that catapulted Vanessa's budding career. During her clerkship, Vanessa honed her analytical skills, immersing herself in appellate cases that ranged from constitutional challenges to intricate corporate lawsuits. A powerful sense of purpose coursed through her, fueled by the memory of how easily Leonard had twisted the legal system to his advantage. Following her clerkship, Vanessa joined a respected law firm, focusing on high-stakes litigation and pro bono cases for women's rights. Her tireless dedication earned her a glowing reputation in legal circles. It wasn't long before she was tapped for roles in governmental commissions and advisory panels on family law reform. Each success was another step up the ladder of influence. One evening, shortly after tucking Lillian into bed, Vanessa's phone rang. It was Judge Porter on the line, sounding more excited than usual. She revealed that a federal judgeship was opening in Vanessa's district. Though it was a long shot, Judge Porter urged her to apply. Heart pounding, Vanessa realized the magnitude of this opportunity. If appointed, she would preside over cases at the federal level, holding in her hands the power to shape the destinies of people just like her. That night, as she closed her eyes, she felt both the weight and the thrill of destiny upon her shoulders. She never suspected just how soon she would cross paths with Leonard Carter again, or how shocking that encounter would be. The confirmation process for a federal judgeship proved far more challenging than Vanessa had imagined. Senators dissected every aspect of her personal and professional life, from her upbringing and finances to her stances on key legal precedents. Vanessa's opponents, fueled by those threatened by her meteoric rise, dredged up her messy divorce and the rumors Leonard's legal team had once spread about her. The tension heightened as political maneuvering threatened to overshadow her impeccable record. Undeterred, Vanessa responded to each query with poise, unwavering in her resolve to prove she deserved the position. When news of her potential appointment reached Leonard's ears, he was reportedly furious. Though they'd had minimal contact in recent years, he had never fully relinquished the notion that he wielded absolute power over her. And if she became a federal judge, it would solidify a level of authority he could not stand, particularly because he harbored financial and legal secrets that could one day place him under scrutiny in her courtroom. Whispers indicated he had quietly financed smear campaigns against her, feeding dark rumors to certain political factions. Yet every attempt to sabotage her nomination faltered in the face of overwhelming endorsements from her colleagues, professors, and clients who lauded her integrity. By the time Vanessa's appointment was formally announced, the media had turned her story into a national sensation. The single mother who rose from obscurity to become a federal judge. Photographers clamored for a shot of the newly minted Judge Carter, her black robes, a powerful contrast to the painful memories of the battered heart left behind years ago. Little did she know, her first major confrontation with Leonard was only months away, and the stakes would be far higher than a personal spat over finances or child support. Vanessa had been on the bench for less than a year when a complex case involving allegations of corporate fraud and money laundering reached her docket. It listed several high-profile defendants, among them Leonard Carter. The reading of his name felt like a physical blow. She had not seen him in person for over a decade, although he remained a chilling presence in her nightmares. Court protocol mandated she disclose any conflicts of interest. She immediately informed the court about her past with Leonard. Yet the unusual circumstances, namely, that the case involved multiple defendants and wide-reaching financial crimes, compelled the legal counsel from both sides to request she stay on, convinced no other judge possessed her unique insight into Leonard's potential wrongdoing. As the trial began, tension crackled in the air. Spectators packed the courtroom, anticipating fireworks. Leonard entered wearing an immaculate suit, exuding confidence, but the fleeting tremor in his gaze told Vanessa. He was unsettled by facing her in a position of authority. She was calm and methodical, adhering strictly to the tenets of judicial conduct. Yet inside, her emotions swirled, old wounds, unhealed scars, and a fierce determination to uphold the law now that she was entrusted with its highest powers. Evidence presented in the trial depicted widespread deception, fraudulent accounting practices, and suspicious offshore dealings. While Leonard's lawyers attempted to paint him as an unwitting participant, Vanessa knew better. She recognized the cunning glint in his eyes, the same manipulative streak that had led him to cast her aside when it suited him. An undercurrent of suspense rippled through the proceedings. Each new witness, each meticulously subpoenaed document, threatened to expose deeper layers of Leonard's corruption. And all the while, Vanessa maintained her composure, determined that the truth, not personal vendetta, would ultimately seal Leonard's fate. For weeks, the trial remained the talk of the city. Media outlets dissected every morsel of testimony, particularly enthralled by the spectacle of a judge presiding over the trial of her ex-husband. Yet Vanessa conducted the proceedings with unwavering professionalism. Under her measured gaze, evidence of Leonard's complicity piled up like bricks in a looming wall. This wasn't just about tax evasion. It involved elaborate shell companies, bribery, and theft of investor funds. The wealth he had flaunted so proudly was built, in part, on criminal foundations. On the final day of testimony, Leonard himself took the stand. His lawyers hoped his charisma and carefully rehearsed statements might sway the jury. But as he spoke, stumbling over cross-examination questions, the veneer of confidence cracked. His shady dealings and unscrupulous behavior shone through, revealing a man so blinded by greed he couldn't see the path leading directly to his downfall. Vanessa posed only a handful of clarifying questions, each delivered with impartial calm, yet precise enough to undercut his every attempt to sidestep accountability. The jury's verdict arrived sooner than expected, guilty on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy. Leonard's face, once chiseled with arrogance, paled as reality sank in. With cameras flashing and onlookers craning for a better view, Vanessa read the sentence. She had the legal discretion to impose heavy fines and a substantial prison term, given the severity of his crimes. Yet she carried out her judicial duty with composure, detailing the magnitude of Leonard's offences and the harm inflicted upon countless investors. When she pronounced his punishment, a multi-year federal prison sentence, Leonard's jaw slackened and murmurs rolled through the courtroom. For Vanessa, this moment was not about revenge. It was about upholding the law and delivering justice. Still, when her gavel struck to signal the trial's end, a wave of closure washed over her. The man who had cast her out was now held accountable by a system she had worked tirelessly to master. As she stepped down from the bench and exited through the judge's entrance, cameras captured the poise in her every step. The culminating scene etched itself as a testament that fate never forgets a debt, and that the seeds of cruelty often blossom into the thorns of karma. Thank you for immersing yourself in this extraordinary story of betrayal, triumph, and ultimate accountability. From a cruel eviction to a resolute climb into the judiciary, Vanessa demonstrated that true strength lies in unwavering perseverance and steadfast principles. When the final blow was struck, poetic justice rewarded her courage and determination, proving that no one can escape the karmic repercussions of their actions. If you found these twists and turns as gripping as we did, please give this video a thumbs up. Share it with friends who love compelling stories, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible narratives filled with suspense and redemption. Your support helps us continue delivering powerful tales just like this one.